a few minutes here.
Pass it to the mayor.
Okay, sounds great, thanks.
Thank you.
Okay, bye.
Okay, so I will call to order the Oregon City Commission meeting for Wednesday, September 5th, 2018. It is about 7:02 p.m. Please rise and join me in the flag salute. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. So under ceremonies and proclamations, we have 3A 18-406, Oregon City's Communications Strategy Presentation. Ms. Brown, I assume.
Yeah.
Oh, there
Give
you
us
are.
just a minute. Can
I'm
you
used to
give us
seeing
just
you
a
in the back
minute?
corner, sorry.
I'm normally in the back.
I want to bring down this.
Sure.
To start talking.
Well, thank you, Mayor and Commissioner. Oh, I don't think, am I on? Can you hear me? Awesome. Thank you, Mayor and Commissioners, for allowing me to present to you our communication strategy. I've been here for 9 months. I've learned so much, and I'm excited to share with you the direction that we've gone with our communications with the community. So we're getting the presentation up, but when it pops up, you will see our main City Hall social media channels. And we try to make it really easy for people to follow us. If you go to orcity.org and scroll all the way to the bottom of our website, we've got links to all of our social media platforms that you can follow along with whatever platform you're on and join right away. Awesome, thanks. So there we go. So I wanted to share with you guys, researchers have shown that in the year 2000, the human attention span went from 12 seconds to the year 2017 down to 8 seconds. The reason for this change is that the way we consume information and the way that we consume media has changed from traditional media to digital media. So whereas we were reading newspapers and watching TV all the way through the commercials and listening to radio and seeing static billboards, we now receive a lot of the content and information on our e-devices, our laptops, and our cell phones. Which just means that as communicators, we have to be on multiple platforms and we have to be engaged in the information economy. We want to make sure that we're speaking in a variety of different channels with the appropriate voice to the appropriate audiences. My goal as your communications coordinator, first and foremost, is to share information. We want to be the first and best resource of information about the city. Second goal is to be credible. So when we're saying we're doing a pedestrian operations safety study, our police force is out. When we say we're doing sewer smoking, you're gonna see smoke coming out of those manholes. And then my third goal is to be engaging and relevant. And I'll get a little more into why that's important in my presentation. We always want to drive people to our website. The website is what hosts all of the information about our projects. We keep this website up to date daily. There's new news and announcements that are posted every day, as well as upcoming events. And those events are curated for events that are specific to the community itself. You can delve into the events and learn more about library events or about public works meetings and commission meetings. If you follow along in the website. So you'll always see when we're posting material and information, we link people back to the website because we want people to find that source of information. The average adult spends 2.5 hours every day on social media. And if you think that's a lot, teenagers spend an average of 9 hours a day on social media.
Yep.
They say that 30% of all of your online usage is spent on social media somehow, some way. So this is interesting and makes it relevant for us to be communicating on social media, considering the amount of time people spend on those platforms. And all of those platforms have heavy competition. It's kind of a blessing and a curse that we know people are there. But how many cute dog videos have you seen? How many tasty videos have you watched? There are so many ads, and there are so many different businesses that are on social media that are spending a lot of money trying to reach you guys. So that way you'll click through and you'll buy something. And that's what I consider competition for our content and our material. So I want to delve into Facebook because Facebook is the behemoth that it is. There's 2.13 billion active users a month on Facebook, and a lot of other channels look to Facebook as the leader in the industry. Facebook has figured out how to monetize content, and of course, every social media platform wants your ad dollars. So follow along with me a little bit here. Facebook has this algorithm, and it's essentially a formula. And when you're looking at your news feed, you're seeing a lot of different content from places that you follow, maybe places you don't follow, but it's a sponsored post. And Facebook is watching you as you interact with this content. So if you scroll through and you don't stop, Facebook doesn't assign like a number or a weight to that content. But if you stop and pause, Facebook will give that a 1. If you like something, Facebook will give that a 2. Say you comment, Facebook will give it a 3. Say you share it, Facebook will give it a 4. And then if your friends start commenting on something you share, Facebook gives that a 5. So they're taking this formula and they're feeding the content that you want to see so that way you will stay on that channel, right? They don't want you to surf over to Twitter. They don't want you to surf over to YouTube. They want to feed you all the information that you can get on your news feed. Where that is negative for us as government communication is sometimes our content just isn't as sexy as a tasty video. So we have to do things that are relevant and that are engaging. Where it also hurts us is you could follow the city's Facebook page, you could follow the police Facebook page, but if you don't stop and look at a picture, or you don't like, or you don't comment on any of that content, Facebook isn't going to feed it to you. So it's a severe disadvantage for us that someone will take the step and they'll follow us, but then they won't engage, and then Facebook won't feed them that material.
That's why the police dog videos work so well on Facebook. I'm telling you, they do.
Oh, yes. They're amazing. So we engage in clickbait. Speaking of police dogs. So I shot this picture of my buddy Romeo at the McLaughlin neighborhood sale, and he reached over 2,000 people. He got over 6 shares, he got comments, he got likes. And then you guys performed pretty well too. You almost got to Romeo's level. There were 1,500 people reached on your post. We got way more shares. There were 53 shares on this post.
Well, we tried to get a dog in there too, and to boost that up. So
See, puppies
Well, I
work.
share everything you put out, so.
You do, and so you see it.
Yeah.
Facebook rewards you for using that content. So we do engage in clickbait because we have to be relevant and engaging. So that way when we post information such as our street projects, then Facebook is more likely to feed this information into your news feed. And what's fascinating to me about this is both of these posts were within hours of each other. The City Hall post reached more people, but we only got 2 comments. The police department didn't reach as many people, but they got up to 6 comments on this specific post. Both of these posts produced over 200 click-throughs. So that means 200 people went to our website and they learned more about this project. All right, so you guys just heard a lot about equitable housing. And I'm sorry, Laura, but it's not the sexiest thing. So I created this video, and I've been working with community development on getting people to take surveys, getting people to come to an open house. And this was a video that we decided we were going to boost. So we put $40 behind this post. We reached over 4,000 people, and over 900 people watched more than 10 seconds of this video. And you know that our attention spans are only 8 seconds, so that means that they were genuinely engaged in what we were saying. Move on to, so this is what I look at every day. I'm a numbers girl, and this is a list of all of our posts. And I look and see what kind of reach we get, what kind of engagement we get. And of course, there's Facebook saying, hey, you can pay to promote this post, give us money. I also am super creepy, and I like to see when people are on our Facebook page. And turns out 8 o'clock is our sweet spot. Between 7 p.m. and 9 p.m., that's when we have the most amount of people that are looking at our page. So if you wonder why I'm staying up at 8 o'clock at night posting something, it's so that way I can get some maximum engagement on what we're trying to say. Facebook has 3 different type of discussion groups. They have an open group, they have a closed group, and they have secret groups. And I know you guys are super familiar with the closed group, OC Chit Chat. By my research, there's 7 to 10 different closed discussion groups. And what a closed discussion group is created for is person-to-person contact and person-to-person conversations. So you will not see the school district on those Facebook pages, you will not see the county on those Facebook pages, and you will not see the city, because we are considered a place or an entity or a business. So you know, by virtue of that, you wouldn't see Fred Meyer on a closed discussion group, because it's meaningful engagement is how Facebook classifies those closed discussion groups.
So how do you find those groups?
You can search for them, but if I were to, I can't process even getting to, like, they ask some questions to verify you are who you say you are, because the city is classified as a government entity. We can't even get to that next page. Facebook classifies us as a government entity.
Do those same rules apply to the other social media, specifically Chit Chat, OC Raw, places like that?
Those are closed groups. So like I said, there's 3 different kinds of discussion groups: open, closed, and secret. And so those are closed groups. And if they were open, then they would allow conversation. But really, when you're putting together a communication strategy, you always want people to go to the source, right? And you want them to share content and share information. So I think it's great. We get a ton of shares, and we get a ton of engagement too, and conversations and messages. I kind of have become a second help desk, you know, to City Hall. I would say with every week, there's maybe 10 to 15 different private messages I get from, hey, can you give me more information about the sewer smoke? Or, gosh, I have these big trees in my yard, what do I do? So
What was that
people are
boom?
finding us. What was that boom? To which I say, where were you? What time was it? Let me send you to the police department.
So is the closed group criteria, is that like an FCC rule, or is that established by the moderators or the creators of those groups?
Mr. Zuckerberg, that is Facebook.
Well, I'm not talking about Facebook, I'm talking about the local, the Chit Chats and the OC Raws.
Well, Chit Chat's a Facebook group.
It's a closed discussion group
On Facebook.
on Facebook.
And Nextdoor, what you have to do with Nextdoor is, when you sign up for Nextdoor, they ask you for an address. And so you have to have an address inside that neighborhood in order for them to give you a login or whatever it is.
You got it, which I'm glad you brought that up, because my next post is about Nextdoor. It's kind of the newbie on the social media scene, and it's actually a platform that I really love and works really well for our content and our information. So Nextdoor, about 3 years ago, allowed government agencies to post. And right now, the county posts, the city posts, and the police department posts. The deal with Nextdoor is we can post on Nextdoor and we can see what people are replying to our posts, but we can't drill into a neighborhood and see the conversations that are going on in the neighborhood. We can speak to a neighborhood, which is super helpful, and I love this for a lot of John's work, because when we have specific pavement projects or the sewer smoke testing that we just did last week, I was able to identify Sparkley Hills and the McLaughlin neighborhood where the sewer smoke testing was going on, provide them this information, and 50% of people click through and learn more about that sewer smoke testing. I also posted it on Facebook, but didn't get as good of engagement. I've also started posting kind of a monthly newsletter, if you will. So this is an example of August newsletter. It goes under general information, and that 12th and Washington signal installation got over 200 click-throughs. So to me, it's an amazing platform where we can really get nitty-gritty good information to our community. The thing about it is we have to be very judicious because people can unfollow us. And that's exactly what we do not want to happen. Nextdoor to me is a great tool whenever we have some kind of emergency or a natural disaster. This is a fabulous, fabulous platform for us to use to get up-to-date information out.
So on Nextdoor, you can't see the conversations, the comments that are going on in a particular thread?
Only if I posted. So if somebody were to comment on that sewer smoke testing, I could see that.
But the other conversations in Nextdoor, you can't see.
No, sir.
See, that's one of my biggest issues is that there's people out there that are talking about stuff that are completely untrue, that
Yeah.
the city could debunk immediately
Yeah.
if we had the ability to be able to go, no, that's not, no, we aren't putting a strip club at Kmart or whatever. I mean, the whole point.
That might be some engaging content though, so you just let me know and I can
Yeah.
probably put together a pretty good post for that one.
And I do have to say that apparently the estimate on High Street is a little optimistic.
Oh,
Cost estimate or?
Timeline.
We didn't say which year.
Oh, I see, okay.
yeah.
Well, that's the water line project. That's
Yeah.
just the water line.
Yeah,
September.
it's not done yet.
Water line's done.
Paving's going
We're
on.
working on gas.
Oh, okay, all right. Yeah, well, whatever. Moving on.
Did your conversation just get hijacked?
Strip clubs and paving.
Such a short span of attention.
8 seconds, guys.
Well past 8 seconds.
So I wanted to share this with you too, and I know you guys already know this, but a lot of our other departments are using social media as well. And altogether, we have over 30,000 followers. Again, that is amazing. In the event we have an emergency or there's a natural disaster, we can reach over 30,000 people. And I monthly meet with our social media coordinators, and we talk about what's happening next month, what kind of events are coming up. Where does it make sense for us to share information such as that 12th and Washington signal installation? That's definitely content that the police department would be interested in sharing, and it's information that I am interested in sharing. So we've got some great folks that are using these channels here at the city, and we're all using them concertedly.
Question?
Sure.
Yeah.
When you create a Facebook page for the city, you have to have a real live person, an account for a real live person. Isn't that correct? And then that person creates the page? So is that true?
It is.
Okay, so my question is that something that, you get behind, or like the library, Mo creates the page, or, so are we interconnecting? I was wondering about that. Are we interconnecting our personal pages with city business?
Facebook forces
Because
you
of their
to
rules,
do that now.
right? I understand. I was just wondering if there was some other way that they had allowed for governments or other agencies to do that.
Can create a ghost page and then tie that to a business page, but Facebook has really cracked down on that. And they will then get rid of both pages, and we definitely don't want that. But it's positive and it's good because I am attaching my personal page to the City Hall Facebook page, but then Lisa is able to as well. And so if I'm gone and I need something posted really quickly and I don't have access to my phone, then it allows you to have a backup. And what Facebook wants is they want you to be a real live person and not a bot. But as we know, there are ways around that as well. But we try to use Facebook as they want us to use it, so that way we don't get banned. We're also on a variety of other different platforms, LinkedIn being the newest one, as a great resource for human resources, YouTube, Flickr. There will be so many other social media platforms that will come about, and we'll evaluate them as they're relevant to us to communicate. And I didn't want you guys to think that all Kristen does is sit behind her computer and post on Facebook. We also have resources to reach our community via those traditional methods. Those are listed up there. And then also I wanted to share with you guys how I get this information. I attend the weekly department head meeting where we're talking about the projects that are affecting our city. I meet with those social media managers. There's a Clackamas County Public Information Officer meeting quarterly where we're talking about emergency management. And then I meet with the Oregon City News editor monthly, and we talk about different projects that are coming about that are relevant for him to potentially cover or for us to send a press release out and share. And then also, we have amazing partners, and I'm lucky enough to get to work on some additional projects that are outside of just communicating what the city does as our basic services. So the Willamette Falls Legacy Project, most recently South Fork Water Board. I talk consistently with our fire department, what programs they have going on, share those. ODOT's been really great about sharing information about 99E. We share that out. Clackamas Community College, just a host of special projects that kind of come my way that I'm super excited to share with the community where it makes sense and where it's relevant. And then lastly, I presented to you guys our community survey. And again, I'm super excited about those results because that's going to help me with what I like to call my special sauce of information. So that way I know where our community wants us to speak, how frequently they want us to speak, and where they want us to speak on. And with that, I will take any questions you have.
Commissioner O'Donnell?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. You know, my interest, quite honestly, is increasing communication with the community, thereby increasing community engagement, and actually that this commission somehow knows the will of the people, which is sometimes our greatest challenge.
Absolutely.
And in that vein, I do appreciate the information on the mechanics of Facebook. But, you know, my thought is I want to reach the audience, and just like public speaking, the goal is to know your audience, which is probably pretty hard considering a diverse population. I want to engage them. I'm not interested in showcasing anybody's vocabulary, and we try to avoid legalese, because that's not what communicates to the common man. I'm interested to know have you had any communications with like Amber Ray, the creator of Chit Chat with 24,000 viewers? Have you, can we accomplish anything by speaking to her? Can we gain more access than we currently have?
The way that it's set up, no, sir. It's a closed discussion.
So it's not a discussion even worth having. We're not going to talk to her because we can't,
If the city could, if that was something that was allowed,
and it's not allowed.
and it's not allowed.
But on the other hand, the mayor could.
Well, and I'm glad you brought that up because you guys are public officials and you want to build your credibility. My job is to build the credibility of the city and to continue communicating from our platforms. So absolutely, you guys as citizens of Oregon City, and you have a vast knowledge of what's going on kind of behind the scenes, you absolutely have the opportunity to engage, to respond, to share content from the city to that page. But the city is not the one that's allowed to speak on those pages.
Right.
So for instance, I communicate much more on the Canby version of Oregon City Chit Chat, which is Canby Now, because I'm not
Private citizen.
an official and I can comment on both sides. But I always felt it would be more credible if the city, as, Oregon City Hall could come out and say, that is just patently not true. So I guess the question is for you is when we see something or you see something that you think that maybe the city should respond to, but you can't because of your limitations, to kick out an email to the five of us and say, would one of you guys get on and respond to this?
Sure, I'm happy to accommodate in whatever way I can. I know
'Cause, I mean,
monitoring some of those are really difficult because there's a lot of content.
Oh, no,
on a
no,
lot of different
I
groups.
understand. It's the ones that, let's forget about Winco. But moving beyond that, when it's an issue that's important, but, so that somebody from the city could respond to.
I would love to write an article. If you hear of some erroneous information, I would love to write an article about whatever it is, direct people to our website so they can find more
Well,
information.
prepare to
about
write
it.
8 or 9 a week. Because I only do Facebook. I don't have time to do the other 16,000 social media sites. So I don't know if anybody else is a tweeter or an Instagrammer or whatever they are, but
Sure.
I'm sure that some other of my colleagues use other social media sites other than that. Frank probably is still sending carrier pigeons, but
I am. Short notes.
Is email considered social media?
Email?
Yeah.
I
no.
don't think so.
I didn't think so. So I was trying to, when you said 12 to 8 seconds on social media, did that include email use?
Oh,
I mean, I know it
so
does
what
include
the-
Facebook and
The
Twitter.
research was specifically about reading a headline and being able to determine if you want to read more about it, to engage more about it. That was the attention span.
Well, to continue my line of thought, there's a fellow named Tom Guile that has formed a OC Raw. Are you familiar with that at all?
I believe that's a closed discussion group.
Well, I think it's worth exploring. I want to use every possible avenue to get out to the people. I know the moderators have a lot of control over what's posted, and I know there's a thin line between informational versus political. And I see different moderators responding differently to postings and just striking them or not even allowing them any further comments on them. I would, if possible, I would invite you to talk to those people. If you come back and say, we can't do anything, if your original statement is as it stands, then we're locked out. Then the question is, we have to go this other avenue where we respond as individuals when you call things to our attention. And the other thing is the method of communication. I looked at a communication on, and it's interesting you bring up equitable housing. Ours is fairly technical, changes are proposed to the Oregon City Municipal Code, increase opportunities for housing. The majority of the recommended changes are from Equitable Housing Project, which identified opportunities to support and incentivize a diverse, quality, physically accessible, affordable housing choices with access to opportunities, services, and amenities, as well as the removal of barriers. And I'm interested in communications that form an image in the recipient's mind. I saw another one where I'll leave the author out of it, and it was actually stopped as being a political statement. The city is rewriting and updating 300 pages of their codes on development. Most is minor, but some of it is not. Do you want your neighbor to sell off and have a 3 to 4-plex built there? Do you care if the neighbor on the other side does an internal conversion into 4 complete residences with no off-street parking? I think there's just different levels of communications, and again, it comes down to knowing your audience. And I know there's a legal requirements of what we have to do, but the goal is to communicate. And I always think about a law course I had, and everybody was so interested in displaying their vocabulary, but nobody understood what they said. So, one guy would speak in 29 students and a professor wouldn't know what he said, and then the professor would speak in 30 students who wouldn't know what he said. So I'm trying to communicate, and I don't care how basic that is. So if I were to task you with anything, and I don't have that authority individually, I would contact the moderators. I would try to understand the constraints on the communications, because in speaking to the gentleman that's running his OC Raw, he doesn't seem to have those same constraints, and I'm not sure if that's
So
correct or
let
not.
me see if I can explain that to you.
Well, you can do that individually unless you want to do it for the viewing
No,
audience.
I'll do it for everybody. So the point, especially on either a closed or an open Facebook page, the person who sets up the page sets their own rules.
Right.
So for instance, the Oregon City Chit Chat page specifically says no politics.
And that's that fine line, Mayor, between informational and politics that falls to the judgment of the moderator.
Right, absolutely. The Canby Now Facebook page does not forbid politics. But when it gets out of hand, the moderator will just shut off the conversation.
Right.
So that's the big thing that, in fact, today there were hearings in Washington and with some of the bigger social media giants talking about whether Facebook and some of these other platforms are not just hosts, but are content providers, because the difference is you're subject to the First Amendment and some of the other things if you are censoring certain content and all those sorts of things. So this is a conversation that is probably going to take us 10 years to resolve on a national level, just because, this is sort of the Wild West of our century.
And it evolves and it changes. I mean,
Daily.
10 years ago, there weren't closed discussion groups, right? You had message boards. And so that changed. Then we have Facebook, and Facebook's constantly changing their algorithm. But I just want to get back to, with those discussion groups, because we are a government entity, we cannot speak in those closed discussion groups. So it doesn't matter what the moderator says yes or no to, it's because we're classified as government, we can't even join that group. Does
And by
that make
virtue of your
sense?
position, you're representing government, so therefore you're excluded.
City Hall is government, right? That's the classification. Police department is considered government. The school district is considered government. Counties, government. Fred Meyer is a business. They're not allowed to post on those closed discussion groups. And you wouldn't want them to either, because then you'd be overwrought with sales and, that kind of information too.
Well, one of my goals tonight was, how do the citizens of this community, what do they have to do to communicate with you?
They communicate with me on a daily basis. We're having private messages back and forth. I get emails via
Do they have to like the Oregon City Facebook to enable
sometimes,
communication?
but not all the time. Yeah, if they're fed a post, if the mayor shares a city hall post and one of his friends sees it and they comment on it, then that's something that we can see and we can comment back on. So between Instagram and Twitter and Nextdoor, Facebook, we get tons of conversations. I mean, just imagine being at the front desk here at City Hall. That's essentially the role that I play in social media.
Oh, so that might fix the problem that we're talking about. So if there's a conversation going on say Nextdoor or Facebook that one of us sees, can we tag Oregon City Hall?
Right,
You
how do we
have to
direct them to you?
screenshot it,
What do you have to do?
screenshot it.
So, because I think the mayor and I are on the same page. How do we direct people to you? Like, do you monitor those social media at all? Do you see like some of these statements that are being made and go, oh my God, I should respond to that, or I should say, please forward your question to,
No, she's told you they can't see those conversations.
well, I think you can see a lot of conversations.
If they're engaging with us, absolutely. Then I'm able to have that two-way conversation. Does that make sense?
Well, I don't know, well, the only conversation I want is that, like this rumor abatement thing, that we can lead them to valid information instead of continuation of rumors. So if you have no visibility, are you saying that I as a private citizen have more visibility than you?
Depending on what platform. you're on.
So I don't comment very often, but there've been many times when I have that I send a link from the city's website that has, you know, that page was created specifically for, you know, the sewer or what, smoking or whatever.
Thank you.
And then I don't even comment, I just
Sure.
put the link in.
Yeah,
You know, so,
absolutely.
you know, go to the source.
Exactly, and that's, I think what we're all talking about is we do want people to come to the source, so that way we can speak from our platform, and it's not the chief saying something or Mo, the library director, saying something. We want the entity to speak, right?
So I'm still trying to work this out in my head, and maybe this is an offline conversation, but if you say, can you follow me on Facebook? Can you see anything that I post on Facebook,
Personally, I can,
but not
Not
the
a
Oregon
city
City?
Page.
correct.
But if you direct them to us, are we as elected officials allowed to do that, to direct the conversation to you for information?
Sure.
Yeah, absolutely. You
Okay,
can
I
tag
just want
us.
to verify that.
We have an almost unlimited First Amendment right as elected.
You
public
personally
officials.
do, I
No,
know.
all of us do.
Any other questions?
Thanks for
Anybody
putting
else?
that on.
Absolutely, my pleasure.
Thanks, Tristan, we appreciate it.
Thank you.
Great presentation, thanks.
Mr. Underwood, you're up.
Thank you, Mayor. Hello, Commissioners. I'm excited to be here tonight to give you this update on our, today designates the rollout of our first efforts for the tourism efforts that we've been doing, specifically the art and the elevator. And I want to talk to you a little bit about that. You probably heard us talk about it a little bit before, but right now in the elevator, we have these decals that have been put up on the windows to identify areas in the city that are historic or iconic throughout the city and even outside the city. And I've got an image here that I can show you if I can figure out which one it is.
What's that?
Oh, that was just down there.
It's been something at the Lux Commission.
So there's an example. That's what's up there right now.
Cool.
So, and actually, it looks like the glass has been etched. It's really cool. So it perfectly outlines the different areas of the city that it's pointing out, and it's got a brief description of each site. So
I assume those are appliqued on the inside of the windows?
yes, they're on the inside of the windows. So when somebody comes up the elevator, they can look over, say they can see the arch bridge, and they can learn a little bit about the arch bridge there. They can look over and say, well, there's Mount Adams, and it tells you a little bit about Mount Adams. It identifies the falls and all kinds of areas around the city, so it's really engaging.
So what's the big foot at the top of the screen?
That's the first sighting of Sasquatch there. So it's just clouds and mountains, just renderings there.
But there's no clouds there.
Well, there was when they put that up there. So it's really neat, and I took Commissioner Ide over there before the meeting this afternoon and showed her a little bit, so I would encourage you to go over there and take a look. In addition to those decals, there is a mural on the shaft portion of the elevator next to the door where you can take a selfie. And
That's inside the elevator?
That's inside the elevator,
Okay.
yeah. So, but it's another way to engage in Oregon City's tourism,
Eric, isn't it inside the elevator observation deck?
the observation deck.
Well, as
Not
long as it's not on the outside of the building somewhere, that's all I care
Yeah,
about.
it's on the shaft, it's on the shaft.
No, yeah.
Next to the door. So we have that going, and a way that's been created to attract people to the elevator are these letterpress posters. We have 500 of these. Some we're going to put inside the city. Others are going to be strategically placed outside the city to draw people to the elevator. And along with this, there's also a website that's traveloregoncity.com that people will be directed to. to learn about this and the decals in the elevator, and also be able to click on to additional links for other sites throughout the city. That'll be in just a minute, yeah. In addition to that, so when people are going to be riding the elevator, this will be coming September 20th or so. We hope to start handing out these field guides. So as people enter the elevator, the attendant will give the visitor the field guide. The field guide will have various walking tours that the visitor could choose from with different iconic sites throughout the city. And they can go to these sites and get stamps, or they can use paper in the back of the field guide and some crayons to do rubbings on historical markers at these stations. And if they collect all of them, they can come back to the elevator and receive a prize, of which I have one for each one of you tonight. So Katie will hand those out. So it's a pennant.
That's pretty old school.
Yeah.
Can't bring it, Archie.
So you're lucky you don't have to get one. You don't have to walk the tour to get one of
I'm
those.
guessing
so
done by modified screen printing?
How would you know?
I would imagine.
Huh?
Is that what it says on the back?
No,
It's a process.
but I recognize it.
Okay.
One of our newer businesses in Oregon City.
So, and then we also will have another feature once you reach the top of the elevator, and it's part of our field guide as well. Thank you, Katie. It is what we're calling the rooftop graphics. And here's an example here. So these will be placed on various rooftops throughout the downtown. And in some obscure locations, really, they're not that easy to find, but you'll be able to click them off as you find them on your field guide. Yes.
I have to ask this question. It's not gonna make you happy. But what is the difference between that and a mural?
Well, it's nothing that's been through this.
How did it get through planning or whatever if we don't allow murals?
City-owned and maintained signs are exempt from the sign code.
Thank you, okay.
Okay.
So just have to ask the question.
So we made sure it was.
So these are all on city buildings.
No, these are on privately owned properties.
Explain that.
City-owned and maintained signs. So the
Signs are
city owns
city-owned.
and maintains the sign itself.
All right, I'll have a conversation offline. Get that explained in a little more detail.
Okay. So, and there are several different ones there. And that's one that's a little hard to find, but it's pretty cool. That's up there right now. I think there are 3 up now, and the others will come up later in the month.
How big are these, Ari?
That's as big as a window.
Yeah, so that's an example of one there.
Okay, I see it.
I know exactly where that is.
So they're probably, 6 by 8 or 8 by 10, something like that.
Yeah.
And this is an example of our field guide that we will have, that the visitors will get. So these are the different paths that they can take, the walks that they can take. And this is where you mark off the rooftop graphics. And so that's a image of the mural that's up by the elevator door right now at the observation deck. And this is our logo here that we're promoting for the experiential-based tourism. And so that's going on now, so any questions?
Buddy?
Good job, thanks.
Thanks, Eric, appreciate
Thanks,
it.
Appreciate it.
Love the colors.
Yeah.
All right. So with that, we'll move on to citizen comment. Is there anybody on citizen comment? Last chance for anybody in the audience that want to speak to something that's not on the agenda. Then we'll move on to adoption of the agenda. Everybody okay? Bernardo, you still with us?
She's on mute.
Okay. Then we'll move on to public hearings. Ms. Richter, how should we go about this with the multitude of parks thing? Do we want to open and close the public hearing for all of these? And then you're going to have to, we'll take a motion for first reading and you're going to have to read them all?
No, what I was thinking was that we don't have to do any quasi judicial, this isn't land use, we don't have to
Right.
do any procedure disclosures at the beginning. I was thinking we would turn it over to Phil and he would do his staff report. And then we would take any public comment, if you want to, about any of them. And then we would move through each one and take a vote on each one, and I'd read the title on each one as we go through. Because we need to read each one and have a vote on each one, because we have to adopt each one as an ordinance,
Okay.
if that's okay with you.
All right, Mr. Lewis?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor and Commissioners. I will try to keep the conversation brief on my end because I know we have a lot of reading to do for the ordinances. Before you today, we have 11 different parks with 10 different ordinances recognizing parks in Oregon City as charter parks. As you are aware, we already have 11 parks that are designated as parks under our Oregon City Charter. We have 2 additional parks that have been recognized as a park by ordinance in Abernathy Creek Park and John Storm Park. And then before you today, again, we have 10 different parks that we are recognizing as adoption of parks by ordinance. And then the one park that we're discussing today and recognizing as a park by ordinance as an adjustment is the Abernathy Creek Park. It's correcting language that was previously designated. Portion of the park as it was listed in the tax lot information was actually listed a tax lot which is in the middle of the right of way on Washington Street. So this ordinance will be a correction and will give a true accounting of what the park parameters are. Again, we have, with today's readings of ordinances, if adopted, we'll have 10 more adopted parks by ordinance. And then we will have 13 parks that are still not yet adopted by ordinance. We're working with the Parks and Recreation Advisory Committee. They've made a recommendation on all of the parks that we're presenting today to be recommended to be adopted as by ordinance. The other parks will be presented at the September 27th Parks and Recreation Advisory Committee meeting, and then to be moved forward to be received by the City Commission, hopefully in October.
So that will contain all of our parks that we currently have.
So we have 36 parks within our park system that we recognize as parks. We should be able to get the vast majority of them done during the September PRAC meeting. We may have a couple of parks that still have some further delving into as far as parameters, but a handful, maybe 4 parks total that we'll continue to bring forward as we have information to present to PRAC and then to City Commission.
Okay. Questions? So I'll open the public hearing, and to be clear, this is for all of the parks that are on this current agenda. Is there anybody wishing to testify? Seeing none, I'll close the public hearing. And Ms. Richter, do you want to do a motion and a second and then the first reading?
So ordinance number 181013, we'll do a motion and a second, then I'll read it, then we'll have a vote.
Okay.
Does that sound okay?
Can we do this in a fairly judicious manner? Commissioners?
I would hope so.
Well, then I'll hear a motion.
Move to approve first reading of ordinance number 18-1013, designating the property known as Park Place Park as a park under Oregon City Charter, Chapter 10.
Is there a second?
Second.
There you go.
Ms. Richter?
Ordinance number 18-1013, an ordinance of the City of Oregon City designating the property known as Park Place Park as a park under Oregon City Charter, Chapter 10.
Discussion? Call a roll.
Commissioner Shaw,
Aye.
Commissioner Mengelberg,
Aye.
Commissioner Ide,
Aye.
Commissioner O'Donnell.
Aye.
Mayor Holliday.
Aye. Moving on.
Ordinance number 18-1014.
Okay, and I move to approve First reading of ordinance number 18-1014, designating the property known as Filbert Run Park as a park under Oregon City Charter, Chapter 10.
Second.
Moved and seconded. Ms. Richter?
Ordinance number 18-1014, an ordinance of the City of Oregon City designating the property commonly known as Filbert Run Park as a park under Oregon City Charter, Chapter 10.
Discussion? Call a roll.
Commissioner Shaw,
Aye.
Commissioner Mengelberg,
Aye.
Commissioner Ide,
Aye.
Commissioner O'Donnell,
Aye.
Mayor Holliday.
Aye.
Ordinance number 18-1015.
Move to approve 18-3898, first reading ordinance designating the property known as Chapin Park.
Second.
Ordinance number 18-1015, an ordinance of the City of Oregon City designating the property known as Chapin Park as a park under Oregon City Charter, Chapter 10.
Call a roll.
Commissioner Shaw,
Aye.
Commissioner Mengelberg,
Aye.
Commissioner Ide,
Aye.
Commissioner O'Donnell,
Aye.
Mayor Holliday.
Aye.
Ordinance number 18-1016.
Move to approve the first reading of ordinance number 18-1016, designating the property known as Wesley Lynn Park as a park under Oregon City Charter, Chapter 10.
Second.
Ordinance number 18-1016, an ordinance of the City of Oregon City designating the property known as Wesley Lynn Park as a park under Oregon City Charter, Chapter 10.
Commissioner Shaw,
Aye.
Commissioner Mengelberg,
Aye.
Commissioner Ide,
Aye.
Commissioner O'Donnell,
Aye.
Mayor Holliday.
Ordinance number 18-1017.
Hang on.
Move to approve first reading of ordinance number 18-1017, designating the property known as Richard Bloom Tots Park as a park under Oregon City Charter, Chapter 10.
Seconded.
Ordinance number 18-1017, an ordinance of the City of Oregon City designating the property known as Richard Bloom Tots Park as a park under Oregon City Charter, Chapter 10.
Commissioner Shaw,
Aye.
Commissioner Mengelberg,
Aye.
Commissioner Ide,
Aye.
Commissioner O'Donnell,
Aye.
Mayor Holliday.
Aye.
Ordinance number 18-1018.
Move to approve first reading of ordinance number 18-1018, designating the property known as Hardkey Park and Hazelwood Park as a park under Oregon City Charter, Chapter 10.
Second.
Ordinance number 18-1018, an ordinance of the City of Oregon City designating the properties known as Hardkey Park and Hazelwood Park under Oregon City Charter, Chapter 10.
Commissioner Shaw,
Aye.
Commissioner Mengelberg,
Aye.
Commissioner Ide,
Aye.
Commissioner O'Donnell,
Aye.
Mayor Holliday.
Aye.
Ordinance number 18-1019.
Move to approve first reading ordinance number 18-1019, designating the property known as Shenandoah Park.
Second.
Ordinance number 18-1019, an ordinance of the City of Oregon City designating the property known as Shenandoah Park as a park under Oregon City Charter, Chapter 10.
Call a roll.
Commissioner Shaw,
Aye.
Commissioner Mengelberg,
Aye.
Commissioner Ide,
Aye.
Commissioner O'Donnell,
Aye.
Mayor Holliday.
Aye.
Ordinance number 18-1020.
I move to approve first reading of ordinance number 18-1020, designating the property known as Hillendale Park as a park under Oregon City Charter, Chapter 10.
Seconded.
Ordinance number 18-1020, an ordinance of the City of Oregon City designating the property known as Hillendale Park as a park under Oregon City Charter, Chapter 10.
Commissioner Shaw,
Aye.
Commissioner Mengelberg,
Aye.
Commissioner Ide,
Aye.
Commissioner O'Donnell,
Aye.
Mayor Holliday.
Aye.
Ordinance number 18-1021.
Hang on here. Okay, move to approve first reading of ordinance number 18-1021, designating the property known as Gleno Park.
Seconded.
Second.
Ordinance number 18-1021, an ordinance of the City of Oregon City designating the property commonly known as Glen Oak Park as a park under Oregon City Charter, Chapter 10.
Commissioner Shaw,
Aye.
Commissioner Mengelberg,
Aye.
Commissioner Ide,
Aye.
Commissioner O'Donnell,
Aye.
Mayor Holliday.
Aye.
Last one, ordinance number 18-1022.
Move to approve second reading of ordinance number.
First read.
Sorry.
First reading of ordinance number 18-1012. Excuse me, I went to the wrong one. Let me start over.
Okay.
Move to approve first reading of ordinance number 18-1022, correcting the property description of Abernathy Creek Park.
Second.
Ordinance number 18-1022, an ordinance of the City of Oregon City correcting the property description of Abernathy Creek Park.
Commissioner Shaw,
Aye.
Commissioner Mengelberg,
Aye.
Commissioner Ide,
Aye.
Commissioner O'Donnell,
Aye.
Mayor Holliday.
Aye. All right, well, that takes care of the parks for now. So we will move on to general business, PC 18-115, second reading of ordinance number 18-1012, revising chapter 2.30, Citizen Involvement Committee of the Oregon City Municipal Code. Ms. Turway.
Thank you very much. One of the ways in which we engage with the public is through our Citizen Involvement Committee, or CIC. That committee is regulated in Chapter 2.30 of the Municipal Code. One of the opportunities for that committee is to provide non-binding advice to neighborhood associations through a process that we call grievances in our code. We have received a recommendation from the CIC itself. They went through a process with the grievance subcommittee to look at the grievance process and make it better. Out of that came a recommendation to remove the grievance process. They felt as though it added confusion, as well as it provided non-binding advice, since the city has no legal authority over neighborhood associations. So with that, the staff requests approval of the second reading of code language, which will remove grievances from the Oregon City Municipal Code. The first reading was provided last meeting.
Motion?
Move to approve PC 18-115, second reading ordinance number 18-1012, revising
Second.
chapter 2.30 of the Citizen Involvement Committee.
And final adoption.
And final,
For discussion? Call roll.
Ordinance number 18-1012, an ordinance of the
sorry.
City of Oregon City revising Chapter 2.30 Citizen Involvement Committee of the Oregon City Municipal Code.
Commissioner Shaw,
aye.
Commissioner Mengelberg,
Aye.
Commissioner Ide,
Aye.
Commissioner O'Donnell,
Aye.
Mayor Holliday.
Aye. So on to 18-395, second reading of ordinance number 18-1008, extending a public facility strategy for the Hazelwood Drive sewer system. Mr. Lewis.
Thank you very much, Mayor and Commissioners. As you know, the city has had several moratorium areas in the past, 7 in fact. We have had those moratorium areas because we found pipelines that were not adequate for the amount of flow that needed to flow through them, and so we were finding places where sewage was overflowing in certain areas. We've since resolved all but one of those areas, and it's the Hazelwood area, and it turns out that that's one of our more challenging, they've all been challenging projects, but this one's been more challenging than anticipated. You have already awarded a construction project for what we're calling phase 1 of a 2-phase project. It's a deep tunneling project, and we've given the contractor a fair amount of time to schedule that. So he's put that work off for a little while, but we still will get that done, but we won't get it done in time for the public facilities plan to expire, and then phase 2 needs to happen as well. So we intend to complete all those within this year extension, earlier than this year extension, but we need the extension. So the Oregon administrative rules require that we bring this to you. It's really designed as a process to kind of check in with the City Commission, make sure we continue our due diligence and get this work done. So we're doing that. It's I think the other thing that's important for you to know that as under the public facilities strategy, we're also required to notify folks that come in for development that are in that particular area or in that drainage basin that we do have a moratorium on that area, to notify them as soon as we can. All land use applications that come forward in that area, we still process, but we can't issue any building permits that affect the wastewater system. So that was all part of that original public facilities plan. So we're asking you to go ahead and we're recommending that you approve the second reading and adoption of the ordinance 18-1008, extending a public facility strategy for the Hazelwood Drive sewer system upgrade project.
Motion?
Move to approve second reading ordinance number 18-1008, extending public facilities strategy for the Hazelwood Drive sewer system.
Second.
Moved and seconded. Further discussion? Call the roll.
Ordinance number 18-1008, an ordinance of the City of Oregon City extending a public facility strategy for the Hazelwood Drive sewer system.
Commissioner Shaw?
Aye.
Commissioner Mengelberg?
Aye.
Commissioner Ide?
Aye.
Commissioner O'Donnell?
Aye.
Mayor Holliday?
Aye. Anybody want to pull anything from consent agenda?
Nope.
Is there a motion?
Move to approve the
Make
consent.
it
There you go.
So moved by Commissioner Mengelberg, seconded by Commissioner Shaw. Call the roll, please.
Commissioner Shaw?
Aye.
Commissioner Mengelberg?
Aye.
Commissioner Ide?
Aye.
Commissioner O'Donnell?
Aye.
Mayor Holliday?
Aye. Mr. Manager?
Thank you, Mayor, evening commissioners. I have two updates tonight. They'll be presented by Mr. John Lewis.
Thank you, Mayor and Commissioners. Again, I know it's been a long time since I've given you a presentation, so I thought I'd give you a real long one. Commissioner O'Donnell specifically requested an extra long presentation, so I'll be doing my best with that.
I believe I requested the Reader's Digest version.
So just on the South Fork Water Board, I think the first thing I wanted to do is just remind folks that I know three of you on this are already on the South Fork Water Board. So, and Nancy, I know you're well aware of this as well, but for the TV listening audience, South Fork Water Board is the source, provides the source water for Oregon City and West Linn, and actually certain portions of Clackamas County through Clackamas River Water District. So they pull the water out of the river and they treat the water, and then they distribute that water through a transmission system to Oregon City, West Linn, and CRW, and we then convey that to all the customers. So for us, it's an arrangement that we've had a long time with South Fork Water Board, and we have some concerns about transmission main, and I just wanted to give you and the listening public an update on that. This first picture is a little bit hard to see, but there's I've got the pointer right here. So I know you don't know this, but there we go. Thank you, Katie. Up in the upper right corner is the water treatment plant. And this blue line along the top of the screen represents the 30-inch pipeline that goes a block away and then turns down Hiram and feeds really all the source water for the Hilltop area and most of Oregon City. There's also a newer 42-inch line that was built just a few years ago that serves our Hunter pump station. It was overbuilt with the project that I'll talk about a little bit tonight in mind. So right now, what we're seeing on this red dot up here is a small leak that we've found in this 30-inch pipeline. I think it's about 15 gallons per minute. I forget the volume of water that 30-inch actually moves, but it's a much larger number. So it's a very small percentage when thinking about it from that term. But it's in a precarious area. This is a kind of right here where this pipeline turns is a area that's prone to landsliding. And so having saturated soils in that area, we've got some concerns about that. So that's really what I kind of wanted to talk to you a little bit more about tonight. So again, this is a little clearer picture of the area. Again, this is the water treatment plant, South Fork Water Treatment Plant. This is that pipeline, that 30-inch pipeline. This is the point at which we're finding a leak. I'll show you just some ground pictures of that and some of the kind of solutions that we have in mind for that. This depicts the pipeline in the dark blue, the alignment of the pipeline in the dark blue. You can actually see kind of the wet spot in the ground where that leak is at. And we've since installed a small sump to collect that water and keep the rest of the bluff drier. And then we're pumping that to a wastewater manhole that sits over here. Those are some pictures of the area. Again, the wet spot sits up about here. This is kind of facing back towards the water treatment plant. It's about 800 feet away from this point. And then these are just kind of some of the ground shots around there. It's kind of a remote area, hard area to find. I think it's fortunate that the South Fork staff noticed the leak kind of at the lower area, kind of where Subaru is storing vehicles up there off Forsyth Road. That's where the leak is showed up in the bank, and they investigated and called us and said, "Hey, we got a problem that we want to look at." This is kind of the access road to get up to that point, and I think it's important for you to know that John Collins and the staff at South Fork have been working with the city of both Oregon City and West Linn on solutions. One of the first solutions that we want to do is kind of regrade this roadway so we can get equipment up there and set some dewatering wells. So we've got a picture of that. There's proposed to put 3 dewatering wells in the area just to make sure we're picking up all that ground. It's subsurface water that's leaking from the pipe. We want to make sure we're getting that, keeping that area as dry as we can until we can take the opportunity to fix the pipeline. And we're a little concerned about opening that up too early and not having a good plan for dealing with that pipeline if it were to further deteriorate in the process of excavating it and exposing it. So our plan right now is to continue to monitor, dewater the area, but not necessarily do any excavation work around that pipeline until we finish what we have as a alternate mode of getting water down to the city system. So here's this alternate mode. And this was a project that was listed in the South Fork master plan, but was not intended to be done this early. But it's basically an extension of that 42-inch line that is in Hunter Avenue. And when they built it, they built a T right there and a valve so that this pipeline could be extended. So we'll be, I say we, South Fork is contracting with both a design engineer and a contractor in the future to build that pipeline. And 720 feet is what's said here. So I think it's a little over 700 feet of pipe that will then tie back into that 30-inch. We'd also go back after this was built and online and fix the 30-inch. So we'll have, redundant systems, but for now, we'd like to get this system built, all intertied, before we go back and make that repair to the 30-inch. A couple other things I wanted to mention to you. Let's see. A recent meeting we had with the community, we're working with Clackamas County and their emergency management office to reach out to critical providers, folks in hospital, for instance, healthcare providers that need water service. So we just recently had a meeting with them to kind of get them to really dust off their emergency plans for what they would do with the water need, make sure they have some supply in case we did have a problem. So that's something we're doing, obviously sharing this information with the community in a website and a bit of social media without going too deep into the details of that, and then things like this meeting here. So this 42-inch is on a very fast track, and I think the Water Board has made a wise decision to both hire a consultant to do the work, and they've also made a decision to acquire this pipe material. 42-inch pipe material of this type doesn't just sit around in inventories. So it appears to me from the information that I've read that if we had not acquired that, if the South Fork Water Board had not acquired that, we would be at least another 2 months out. But as it stands right now, our schedule is looking something like this. The design is well on its way. We're actually reviewing plans as well, so we expect to have that completed by the end of this month. They're already utilizing the 90% plans and specifications to get that information to the contracting community so that they can provide bids that would then be refreshed with any new information that comes out between now and the final completion. Pre-bid meeting is scheduled for the 17th of this month. We expect a notice to proceed on the construction work by, and these are I think, dates that we'd like to beat, but where I'm sharing with mid-October is when we would like to issue a notice to proceed with the construction. Complete the pipeline work by the end of November and have all the restoration work along the roadway there completed by Christmas time. The cost, the last estimate I looked at was $1,350,475. That included a 30% contingency. It's budgeted. It's money that South Fork has, but I understand they need to do a budget amendment to get that funding. But that's well on track as well.
Only to move contingency.
Only to move contingency dollars. I guess the other little thing is we've got kind of the city has kind of a mess of piping in this area, and we're working with RH2 and South Fork to include that in the bid package, so it'll be a separate schedule that the city will pay for. But I guess the only other thing I'd add is right now you'll notice that according to John Collins, all that pipe has been delivered and stacked out here in Park Place Park off this area. We've allowed it to be stored there so it's close to the project. Restoration of that area will be as it is today or better. The other thing I'll point out is there's a few trees in this area that we'll need to remove and reestablish, or no, we're not going to reestablish those. They're going to be cut down and we will plant mitigation trees on the park. That's it.
Questions?
Well, a couple things that were in our favor. Number one is they found that leak fast.
In the summertime.
Yeah. So, and the second thing was finding that 42-inch pipe, because it's only found in one place in the United States. So John found that and grabbed it real quick. So I think we're going to appreciate the relationship between Public Works and South Fork working together like this, John. So I appreciate your efforts on this.
Yeah, we've been all hands on deck, and it's been good to work with South Fork. Oh, the other thing I wanted to present, or it's not a presentation, but discuss, was the State Transportation Improvement Fund and some results that we got on a grant that we applied for with Clackamas County. It's a joint project that we've included in an ask. I brought this to the City Commission, I don't know, I've forgotten now, 2 or 3 months ago, but the turnaround time on this was amazingly fast, and so I just wanted to mention it. House Bill 2017, there's a long list of projects that were approved in that House bill through the legislature, and out of that long list, there's a placeholder for $3 million a year that was set aside for transit and helping underserved areas. And I believe, even though there's some projects that were approved there's a project that's approved in Milwaukee, it's mostly meant for the fringe areas and better service of transit in the fringe areas. So we applied for one project, Clackamas Community College applied for a project, and Clackamas County applied for a third project, and I just want to go through those real quick. So for the Oregon City project, we call it the Oregon City Last Mile Shuttle Service. So it's likely to be something like, if you're familiar with the Forest Grove, what's it called now? I'm drawing a
Shuttle.
blank.
Just call it shuttle, move on.
It's the Grove Link service. And that service basically is, they've got a route, but it serves areas that aren't already served by TriMet. And so that's what this little project is about, is trying to supplement the TriMet service area for some of those underserved areas. It's a $768 $100,000 project over the 3 years of the program. Our match is $31,000. It'll better serve the South End, Caulfield, and Park Place areas. It'll also stop at, key places in TriMet served areas, but those are some of the areas that we're identifying. And the way it was designed in the application was there's a planning period, which is the first year, to figure out who's going to do what, right? How is that service really going to operate? And, who's managing it? All those kinds of answers need to come from the study period. And then the second year is about acquisition of capital, buses. And the third year is operational. And this is long-term funding, so the operational funding will continue for this. So we're pretty excited. Clackamas County Community College is also adding more shuttle service to their existing program. It'll be between the college and their town center and Harmony campus. And they will extend their service into the evening hours on Monday and through Thursday. And then they're also proposing under this grant to provide summer service hours. So those are going to be enhancements that Oregon City residents would be able to benefit from. The third application wasn't completely approved, but they approved a study period or a study phase or a planning budget for a service between Oregon City, Tualatin, and West Lynn. That is another area that we've heard from a lot of folks that's needed service. So there's 3 other projects in Clackamas County, including that were approved: Clackamas County Industrial Shuttle, Milwaukee Industrial Shuttle Planning, and SMART got some money for extended service as well. So seems like good news for us. It's going to, most of that funding, I understand, isn't going to come due until mid 19, but we'll probably start the planning work in early 19.
Anything else?
That's all for tonight.
Anything from the commission?
I just want to thank, Phil and Gail down at the Oregon Trail there for that 175th Oregon Trail celebration over the weekend. That was a great event there, Phil, so thanks.
I attended that as well, but go ahead.
I just have one quick thing. Just wanted to invite the commission and staff, if Tony approves, to an affordable housing tour. It's a bus tour of about 2.5 hours, sponsored by the Welcome Home Coalition. They'll be visiting several affordable housing communities and providing instruction on how those communities work. It's on September 19th from 1 to 3:30. And if anyone would like to join me, I'd love to have some.
Is that a weekday?
It's a Wednesday. So it's the next commission day, but it's from 1 to 3:30. We'll be back before things get started. So you're welcome to come. Just contact me at iden@orcity.org and I'll give you more details.
So I did attend the 150th anniversary of the Oregon Trail. And then today was a pretty long day. Had Metro Mayors out in Milwaukee, and then I did the 4-hour meeting of the Willamette Falls Locks Commission. And we're moving forward, sort of narrowing down the ideas about what ownership might look like, whether it would be a private nonprofit. Representative Parrish brought up the idea of maybe having the legislature create another public-private corporation like OHSU to actually own and operate the locks. So we're narrowing down some of the options. We're going to spend another 1.5 years doing this before we get to a place where I think the Corps is going to be comfortable in turning it over and try to figure out how we're going to finance that and some of the other operations things. So there's a lot more work to be done. Is there anything else for the good of the order? Then we're adjourned.